Welcome to Our Soul Whisper with Cathi Belmont and co-host Dr. Pat, a sacred space for self-discovery, healing, and transformation. At the heart of Our Soul Whisper is the sacred truth. When we pause and listen inward, the soul always speaks. This show offers a safe, empowering space where those whispers are heard, honored, and lovingly guided into full expression. Each episode invites you to be curious about yourself and the reality you're in, while gently reminding you that you are exactly where you need to be. Let today's message settle in your heart. Maybe even journal about it. And if something resonates, peace, clarity, or insight, pass it along to someone whose soul might be calling for the same. Keep listening inward. Your soul knows the way. Our Soul Whisper starts now. Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Pat, and I am so honored to take this amazing journey with Cathi Belmont. You heard that opener talk about the show. This is one of many shows we'll do. I want to just tell you a bit. This episode is about when your soul nudges you. Now, it's important to know a little bit about Cathi and to understand why this is important. And along the way today in the episode, you're going to hear many examples or several examples from Cathi on how that's happened. You know, this is a show, Our Soul Whisper, about self-discovery, empowerment, and inspired action. And Cathi has a life, a journey beyond credentials to really heed to the calling, to step forth in life and do something that she so wanted to do. That state of unconditional self-love, that state of being, experience that in life, to be able to nurture those aspects of ourselves isn't just a sentence with words. This is a passion. This is a commitment. This is something that Cathi just completely embraces in every pore of her coaching program. So this now is an opportunity to get all of you to know more about Cathi, but more about your own soul. This is a journey of wholeness. This is what Cathi has done, whether it's turning left, turning right, whether it's saying yes to doing this show, whether it's saying, listen, I want to make a pivot right here. If you try to do it alone without that insight, it could be a totally different experience. Cathi, this is so great. You and I have been working together for a while, and now here we are. Yay!
Here we are. It's happening, and I'm so grateful and just so happy to be here. Oh, it's just wonderful and so excited to share this conversation.
Yeah, let's talk about this because I made some assumptions in introducing you, but this is really for you to talk about your journey. But let's open this up with what do you do when your soul nudges you? And there's parts of your life that you're going to share today. Mm-hmm. But what does that even feel like, the soul nudging feeling?
Well, it can start out as a little tap on the shoulder, and then if we listen, it can, continue on. But it's, I wanted to ask a couple questions about that just to the listeners, like, what does it feel like when your soul nudges you in one direction or another? Can you recognize that? And, do you really feel stuck sometimes and just can't find the courage to make that choice? I'd love to share that, the soul of me has been nudging me in this direction of this soul-centered business for such a long time. And I ask myself every once in a while, why is it taking so long? And I come to, it's divine timing for one, and then there's a lot of blocks and limitations along the way that I had to look at and recognize. And gosh, there's still blocks and things that come up all the time, and then do I have the courage to look inside and look at those and say, are they still serving me? Are they still working for me? So it really just was when I really started knowing how and acknowledging and integrating those parts of myself that were saying, gosh, listen to me, that I
Yeah.
really, my world changed, decisions changed, my perception changed, and it really allowed me to go along this path of what's making me happy here, you know? So, I'm really looking through a new lens of possibility, and I do
Mhm.
my best every day to tune in, listen, follow my direction, and my best, our best can
Yeah.
look differently in each moment, you know.
I love what you just said because it took me back to Sheryl Crow, like the singer Sheryl Crow. And I now you're gonna have to correct me here, but Sheryl Crow's song is about what makes you happy, right? It's a whole song about that. But you really touched upon a few things, and I really want to hear from you because I did a show earlier today, and I also made the statement today in this show. You can take the path of going it alone. I try. I'm not saying I didn't accomplish things, but my experience during those times was a far cry from when I listened to my soul. As a matter of fact, my soul nudged me this morning, started last night about something, and I woke up this morning to take action for it. And I realized I only have 24 hours to take action and oppose a trademark. But my soul nudged me to pay attention, and I will get this done. But let's talk to you about when your soul nudges, what does the journey look like? What were you nudged to do? Were you nudged to just leap off a building in a single bound? Or did you go through experiences which allowed you to learn more, teach more, create more?
You know, I think about it's been a part of me for so long, and you know, I've taken my classes, learnings, there's been teachers all along the way. And, I just feel like I'm taking all of that and putting it into the now. So it's really, my soul has been nudging me and guiding me along the way through, hey, Kath, take this class. Hey, check this teacher out. Hey, pick up that Seth book. And it's learning and processing all that. And I I find myself here now as each step that I take, I'm co-creating that life that I wrote about in journals. I want to share my voice. I know what a difference it's made for me, and I just want to share that with others. And
Yeah,
so, it's I feel like I'm walking my talk, you know.
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
I'm slowing down, I'm tuning in, and this morning, my first show, yikes. And what did I do? I sat here for 15 minutes and I breathed, and
Yes.
I said, I'm not alone.
Mm.
And so it's just, and I'm having a blast. So it's really, we all have that guidance coming our way, and it's really doing our best with all the tools and learnings out there to keep our vessel clear, to really, so we can
Mhm.
hear it. It's always coming. We just can't always hear it because we're in an emotion, or we're just not
Chaos.
paying attention.
Chaos is the word. And, let me explain chaos for a minute because everybody's like, chaos. No, chaos is very interesting because everybody thinks that something has to blow up. No, it doesn't. Chaos is this thing, and you and I have talked about this. And I just want to share something with people. Cathi and I have been working together now for several months. She has a beautiful new website, and take a look at it. There's more to come here. OurSoulWhisper.com. Now, I'm bringing this up for a reason because you made a pivot. And this is why, sometimes we make this so complicated. I remember talking with you as we were looking at your previous site, your previous work. And I remember just going through that and trying to make it look better. And I can't remember your exact words, maybe you do, but I think you said something to me like, nope, we're not going to do that one anymore. I would like you to build a site under our soul whisper. I said, okay, yep, let that one go away. Let it expire. See, I don't mean to say that you made that in a hot second, but you obviously listened to something. So if we have the ability to do that, my decision this morning, albeit the 900th hour, this trademark is so important to me that I had to put my emotional self aside that says, I created the word unstuckable. How dare you think that you're going to be able to do? I had to put that aside and I said, thank you, spirit, thank you. 15 minutes, I asked for my soul, tell me what to do, and I got the answer. Now, why would I make it more complicated than that? Why would we do that? Because this pivot you made walked away from something you've been doing and created our soul whisper. So talk about what the heck do we do to make it hard and complicated, and what can we do to change that?
Yeah, I mean, why do we make it all so complicated? It's like, why do we have to make all of this so hard? And, we hear a lot about, in each moment, live your highest joy, just breathe, sit in nature, meditate, all these things that are very wonderful grounding tools we can use in our lives. And then sometimes on the flip side, there's, all right, well, I got to go to work. I got to drive an hour through traffic. I got to feed the kids, do all these tasks that are in front of us, and so it's how do we integrate the get keeping ourselves grounded and in tune with all the stuff in front of us throughout the day. And what I've learned to do, I go back to simplicity. I learned a lot of that from my brother. Keep it simple. And, I just stop and I tune in and I say, what's going on? How am I feeling? Am I feeling frustrated, nervous, sad, happy? Our emotions are wonderful communicators. They illuminate parts of us that are often scared and unsure. And they just want to be listened to and they just want to be acknowledged. And so when we do that, we're honoring and loving ourselves. That can be a definition of self-love right there, just honoring those emotions. And, you know, we can also really become curious about how we're feeling and how we want to choose and be in every moment. We get to decide how we want to be in each moment. And, I see it as strengthening that muscle. I'm doing my best to stretch every day. And I think, okay, make it, you start at your knees, you get down to your feet. Sooner or later, you're putting your hands flat on the floor. It's a process. And we strengthen our ability to do that. And, had a thought this morning. It's about really being curious about ourselves. And it's the getting the judgment out of the way, but being curious about a playful curiosity. What's going on in our lives? What's in front of us? And questioning and observing ourselves and others with curiosity and not the judgment. I think there's enough of that to go around. So I don't think we need to spread any more of that, but being curious.
Yeah. And I mean, this is all part of, and I want to really mention to everybody here is today's show is all about what do you do when your soul nudges you? And we can go through an entire hour of descriptive examples. You and I just you talked about a couple things. This morning I got very clear about what I should do, not because of my brain or my ego, but my soul hit me right in the heart about something, and it hit me right in time. So I had to get past, my gosh, this is going to cost $5,000 to oppose. All of that is mind chatter because once you silence it, you find a way to pay for it. And I had someone say to me, why are you bothering? Why fight it? And I decided not to answer that question because, by the way, this is a life's body of work for me. I already have the store up. So I can't get emotional about it. So let's talk about what you do to help people keep in that high frequency, to stay in that high frequency, to really work with our emotions, but also to get to the place where we understand, Cathi, what they're saying to us, right?
Yeah, I keep going back to, slowing down in those moments when we get heightened, you get overwhelmed and, there's this lack of clarity. And, I learned quite a bit to, you know, where's that place that brings you joy? What can you do in that moment of overwhelm where that can bring some peace and joy to your life? It could be going outside for a walk. It could be going to your favorite coffee place. It could be just sitting down and reading for a bit. It's taking that time. It's that muscle. It's and do we choose to listen? Are we going to listen or not? You know,
Yeah, yeah.
um, and everybody experiences that differently, and it's really learning to recognize those nudges as far as strengthening that muscle. Tuning in. We begin to discern between
Hmm.
that loving guidance that we're getting all the time, and those fear-based thoughts that you
Hmm.
mentioned, about the trademark,
Yeah.
that mind chatter.
But let's talk about this. It doesn't even have to be about business. I don't know about you, but I went through 12-step program. I'm going into this year's my 35 year of sobriety, and there's nothing more eye-opening than looking at regrets, that looking at your past. And I know you have a story to tell about that. But this is an important part of the discovery about things. Because if we live in, I wish I would have dot, 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 or I should have dot, 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 we're carrying the burden of unforgiveness. And, let's talk about how your work taps in the personal side of life, not always the business side. There are things every day that we do or we don't do. Have you had that experience?
I have, yeah. I mean, a good friend of mine passed away years ago. And before she passed, I got messages, call Diane, call Diane. And I kept putting it off, thinking I have time, I can get her next week. Well, I received a call from her daughter saying that she passed away. And, you know, my heart just sank. And it took a long time for me to forgive myself for not calling her. I received the messages and I didn't listen because I thought I had more time, you know. And so since then, I made the decision whenever a person comes to my mind, I reach out in some way. And I do that to honor my friends. And I also do that to honor myself and my soul. I want to continue receiving those messages that I want that guidance. And so that's my way of honoring that, and since then, whenever I reach out, we can call it coincidence, serendipity, but 9 times out of 10, I get, oh my gosh, I was just thinking about you, you know.
Yeah.
And, I had a good friend of mine going through a really rough time. And I just happened to be thinking about her that morning as I was getting ready. And I said, oh, I haven't heard from her. I'm going to give her a call. And she said, oh my gosh, I was doing my morning ritual and I was thinking of you. And we ended up talking later that day, and I feel I made a difference with her. She was able to
Yeah.
release and get what was troubling of her out. So I find those moments really precious. And when I can go back to those simple moments in life, there's so much richness there,
Yeah.
and then the chaos of our world can, you know, go away for a while.
Well, you and I have been working together for a while. And for those of you just tuning in, you're listening to Our Soul Whisperer. And please go to OurSoulWhisperer.com, reach out to Cathi, schedule a discovery call. So, since we've been working on this episode, and you and I have gone over this, I have picked up the phone and called slash texted two people. One is Tacey Trump, who was my very first producer back in the day when I dialed the wrong phone number and I bought my first hour of airtime on an internet station. The second one was Monica Sicard, who taught me about the indigenous, the First Nation traditions, the Lakota. We worked together on coming of age, and I texted her. Why? Because Linda asked that we do a ritual around the house, a special ritual, and I had forgotten. I'd forgotten I even knew how to do that. You see, this
Mm.
is the influence you have, Cathi. I want to be really clear. You're doing something that people, you all listening to this is what happens when you have a conversation with Cathi and you hear the stories. Your soul gets activated because she imbues the sense of that. And what I loved about it, you never told me what to do. You didn't even suggest, none of that happened. But your teaching, your influence, and how you showed up for the show, for changing your mind, for launching a new idea. But when you shared the personal story with me, it really hit me between right in the heart. And I called those people.
Yeah.
So, what do you think the odds of my best friend, who has no idea, what do you think the odds of her simultaneously saying, why don't you get your sacred box from the garage with the sage that you've collected? And can we do a ritual?
Mm. Yeah. Beautiful.
But
Hmm.
that's her soul being nudged by an
Hmm.
energy.
Yeah.
This is why we're doing this today, right? Opportunities show up. Sometimes you're not supposed to act right away. Today, for me, I needed to act. Now, I don't know if I'm going to get my trademark person to help me. So I've got to figure it out for myself.
Yeah.
But this is what we're talking about. I don't know that I would have had that insight had I not met you.
Mm. Oh, it's beautiful. Thank you, Dr. Pat. Warms my heart. Thank
Mm,
you. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I want to talk about a couple things
Hmm.
because do you think it's easy to reach out to somebody you haven't talked to in I don't know how long? What do we do with the fears that show up? What if we have deep desires, Cathi, that are tucked away that you think your soul doesn't have? I want to talk about how to bring this completely around to believe, even for me today, to believe that I will have whatever it takes to do what I need to do. What can you share with us about those deep desires and what we can do?
You know, I, another great question is, are we really courageous enough to take that leap, the one that we know we want to take, And I think once we begin, continue, whatever stage we all are in, continue to look at our what are we afraid of? What are our blocks and what do we feel is in the way? And, you know, asking powerful questions of ourselves. And then, going back to that curiosity, taking some of the weight off, making it pleasant for ourselves, as pleasant as we can as we look at that stuff. And, we're not alone in this at all, you know. And it's recognizing when you're presented with an opportunity such as a person, some sort of resource will come your way that's going to assist you. And it's step by step. And we don't know how those are going to take. It took me a long time to get through my brain that, life's not linear. It goes this way and that way. And it's just trusting each step and trusting yourself.
Okay, I got to give you a demonstration. This is a testimonial you're going to be able to put somewhere, or whatever you're going to do. I'm talking about the trademark situation, correct? I also talked about I hadn't heard from my legal person. What do you think just showed up in my inbox during this show at the exact time we were talking about it?
Please share.
An email from Jamaica, who's going to send me over the opposition and going to send me the invoice for it. What are see, this is what I want to say to you all out there. If you don't believe that this works, this works. This works. And I'm almost tempted to take a screenshot of the email and include it in this show. Not the details, y'all, because it's kind of private. But you see, this is why we do this. This is why with my life, it took me a while to trust. I want to ask you, you can't demonstrate it any better than what just happened right now.
That's beautiful. Yeah, and I'm so glad
How long
you
have I
shared
been pinging her and emailing her and like made up a whole story about it, and then boom, there it is. Thanks to you, Cathi. Thanks to your influence. I want to ask you what your personal message is, because this boils down to a couple of things. And it talks about your philosophy. So would you share that, please?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So, you know, our higher self is always guiding and supporting us with this constant stream of unconditional love. You know, we're not alone. We're not doing this by ourselves. And all we need to do is ask and be open and receptive to that guidance. And when we can let go and allow the soul of us to lead the way, step by step, life begins to feel lighter, and it leads us closer to those dreams in our hearts. Yeah.
I want to thank you, Cathi. And I would just want to let people know what's the best way to get a hold of you. They can go to OurSoulWhisper.com, but there's also an email. So would you like to share that with people?
Sure. It's OurSoulWhisper@gmail.com.
And I wanted to say to everybody here, this email from my legal counsel, this came through after the show started. And whatever it was, fears or inhibitions you have, the soul isn't about that. What, Cathi, you shared today is the wisdom and the knowledge and the action, the inspired action that the soul opens the door for us to take. Not all of us can take it alone. And that's what you're offering to the world. And I want to thank you for everything you do.
Oh, thank you.
I can't wait for our next show.
I am too. I've already got things stirring.
It was no kidding.
Surprise.
You know, I got them stirring, but I got another show to do, so can't get them stirring. You know, it's like Grandma used to say, don't taste the sauce. It's not done yet. Thank you so much. We'll see you all next time. Thank you for listening to Our Soul Whisper with Cathi and Dr. Pat. Tune in every first and third Wednesday at 11 a.m. Pacific. talkradio.com and subscribe so you never miss an episode. Take a moment now to breathe in and reflect on today's message. If it brought you peace, clarity, or insight, let it settle in your heart and maybe even journal about it. Remember to like and share this episode with someone who's ready to listen within. May our soulful echoes ripple outward, awakening awareness and deep remembrance. If this show touched something within you, share it. Let's create a world where most of us pause, listen inward, and allow our light to shine. Visit OurSoulWhisper.com for more.